Hello, I'm Leslie Haas with EOS USA, and today we have Michael Bohnen. And Michael, I've got a couple of questions for you. Can you describe the Telos Economic Development Plan, or the TEDP? What is that?
When they first created Telos, they reserved a block of Telos off to the side for exchanges to come and claim. So if you want to trade Telos, you need to be able to get some Telos and have them available to trade back and forth on the chain.
Right.
So for all exchanges, on all chains, they tend to...
You have to have a pot to pull from.
Correct, exactly. Yeah. So whenever they cloned off Telos and spun it off, they made this big bag of exchange funds for people to come and claim. Well, several of the exchanges never came and claimed the Telos. So there's this substantial amount of coins that are sitting over there that are really just not doing anything, and obviously they're not going to come and claim them. So the idea was that, what if you could put those to better use? So there was this Telos Economic Development Plan that came out that has several pieces of it, 5 main facets. But ultimately what they do is they're going to take it's like 140 million Telos or something like that sitting in this account that are unclaimed, and use those to pay the funds for the chain and drop the inflation on the chain down to zeros. And all of those funds are going to not only be paid for out of this fund, but also increased to a little higher level to help offset some of the cost differences.
Okay, and what about TRex?
So TRex is the Telos version of Rex, which is more of a shortened version of Resource Exchange. And what the idea is that on the EOS chain, or any EOS-IO chain, you're entitled to resources to use on the network. So if you want to commit a transaction, you get these resources that you're entitled to do. If you're not using them, you can lend them into a bigger pool where developers or other people can borrow those resources and use them at a cheaper price than buying them outright. When you stake to Rex, you also get paid some ROI dividends and things along that line. So you're making a passive income off of resources you're not using. The Telos version, TRex, actually amplifies it a little bit, is that they did some reconfiguration of some of the accounts that were unused by the exchanges, and were actually able to bump up the APR and everything on the Rex interest. So there could be up to 20-30% ROI or APR on the first run of things as the first people get in there. So TRex is a little different than the normal EOS Rex, the resource exchange, but it's also being funded by more funds than just the normal leasing of the resources.
Okay, and how can you describe the recent situation on Telos where a bad actor, and you'll have to explain what that is to me too, tried to sabotage the vote for TEDP?
Correct. There's 2 interesting aspects of Telos voting aspect. You have to have more than 55% approval of all accounts, so ultimately 55% all have to say yes, and currently 5% of all active accounts have to have contributed into the vote.
Okay.
So it's basically saying, hey, look, you can't just have one person vote for it and nobody else vote and it still get passed.
Right.
So what ended up happening, there was some dissension amongst all not so much the community, but different factions about whether it was good, whether it was bad. So a bad actor, somebody who was obviously against the TEDP taking effect, figured out that because of that 5% participation level, if you could go in and create thousands of accounts, which Telos offers for free in certain aspects, ironically, they paid for said accounts, but if you create thousands of accounts and go and vote for something else, you don't even have to vote no because your weight is so small. But if you technically voted for something else, you lowered the threshold to where so many people had not voted for it, it would inadvertently fail. Overwhelmingly yes, but not enough participation because they flooded out the participation threshold.
So it's almost like there's not enough of a quorum to reach the positive vote.
That's what it changed it. So a couple hours right before the end, it ran for, 29 days or something like that, overwhelming yes support, and an hour or two right before the end of the 29-day session, somebody went in there and bought thousands of accounts and then voted for another referendum, which ultimately raised the threshold of that 5% to where they could get it high enough that it was failing because not 5% had contributed to the vote.
How would someone be able to pull that off? How does that work?
Well, it was somebody understood the mechanics of the way the voting system works, is that whole 5% participation, and also understand and do the math on, well, how much am I willing to invest in creating these accounts? And I mean, it's all
and then
computer
just have
code.
a software computer.
That's why it's all
Yeah.
computer code that just said tick, 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 do this over and over and over till you get to this point and then stop. And that was enough. And they did it right at the end, so, and in the middle of the night. So, not everybody really saw it until, interesting, didn't see that happening. So what they ended up going back and do to resolve it was, interpreting the way it was written into the bylaws and the constitution of the chain, and determined that actually the math used for that calculation was inaccurate from a certain aspect in accordance to what was originally presented. And that change ultimately adjusted that threshold to where the TEDP did pass, even though a bad actor attempted to override the overwhelming support of the community.
So what's the way to keep something like that from happening in the future? How do you stop that?
Well, that's we're currently investigating it.
Yeah.
I mean, any system that's mathematical and scriptable, with a computer has the danger of being gamed. And you try to offer fairness,
Right.
but you also, people are going to do what they're going to do. So it's still in-depth conversations and what exactly can we do, what changes. Any major changes to it obviously have to be voted through with the community.
And how to get that security into place. Because this sounds something similar like when fake email addresses are created by computer systems. So kind of get around that with the, it's now really annoying to make an account or to verify an account. You have to figure out what letters are right or colors and
CAPTCHA.
Yes.
Completely automated, programmed,
Of course he knows what
human
CAPTCHA
check.
stands for.
It's an acronym, just so you know. CAPTCHA. CAPTCHA is an actual acronym.
Okay, I figured it was someone's name or just someone's favorite
I don't
phrase.
remember where I came up on that. I think Wikipedia maybe taught me that, but CAPTCHA is it's an acronym for a computer automated human. It's got the word, that's what the H in there is, human.
Okay, interesting. Well, thank you so much. You're always a joy to have around, and you explain all of this so well. So thank you, and see you again soon.
Absolutely.